Sarah Chen stood at the edge of Salvage Sector 7, one of humanity's furthest-flung junkyards, where the refuse of a dozen alien civilizations collected like cosmic driftwood. The pale light of distant stars filtered through the transparent dome overhead, casting long shadows across mountains of discarded technology. Her breath fogged against her helmet's visor as she surveyed the landscape of mechanical devastation. "Another dead end," crackled Martinez's voice through her comm. Her supervisor back at the United Earth Engineering Corps hadn't hidden his skepticism about this expedition. Sarah adjusted her scanner, the device's soft blue glow illuminating her determined expression. "No, there's something different here. These energy readings don't match anything in our database." She picked her way through the debris field, her magnetic boots keeping her anchored in the low gravity. Most of what surrounded her was standard salvage: broken hull plates, damaged engine cores, and shattered nav systems. But her instruments kept pulling her towards something deeper in the yard, something that shouldn't exist. Then she saw it. Half buried under decades of space dust and smaller debris lay the unmistakable form of a ship. But not just any ship. Its design was unlike anything humanity had encountered. The hull, despite its apparent age, showed no signs of micrometeorite damage. Its surface seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. "Martinez, are you seeing this?" Sarah activated her suit's video feed, heart racing as she approached the vessel. "I see it. Looks like another piece of Xarillion junk. Their empire's been dumping decommissioned ships out here for centuries." But Sarah knew better. The Xarillions were masters of crystalline technology, all sharp angles and geometric precision. This ship was different, organic curves and flowing lines that seemed to defy conventional engineering. She pressed her gloved hand against the hull, and for a moment she could have sworn she felt a vibration, like a sleeping giant stirring. "This isn't Xarillion," she whispered. "This is something else entirely." Using her suit's enhanced strength, Sarah cleared away some of the debris. What she uncovered made her gasp. Near what appeared to be the ship's bow was a panel covered in elaborate markings, not the precise mathematical patterns of Xarillion script, but something far older. "Martinez, I'm sending you these markings. Run them through the xenorchaeology database." Several minutes passed in tense silence before Martinez responded, his voice now carrying a note of genuine interest. "Sarah, these match patterns from the precursor archives. This ship, it's at least 50,000 years old." The precursors, a mysterious species that had vanished long before humanity reached the stars, leaving behind only fragments of their advanced technology. Finding any trace of them was rare. Finding an entire ship. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. The precursors had mastered technologies that modern civilizations could barely comprehend. If even a fraction of this ship's systems were intact. "I'm claiming salvage rights," she declared, already reaching for her marker beacon. "Wait," Martinez cautioned. "The Xenorchaeological Preservation Act doesn't apply to salvage zones." Sarah finished. "This was legally abandoned. Whatever secrets this ship holds, they belong to whoever's willing to put in the work to uncover them." She planted the beacon, its steady pulse marking her claim. As she did so, her scanner picked up something else. Deep within the ship, barely detectable, was an energy signature. Impossibly, after 50,000 years, something aboard was still alive. Sarah smiled behind her visor. Others might see a wreck, a piece of space junk destined for the recyclers. But she saw potential. The aliens who'd abandoned this ship had missed something crucial. Sometimes the greatest discoveries came not from building something new, but from understanding something old. "Martinez, I'm going to need a recovery team. And tell the brass to clear my schedule for the next few months." This project just became my top priority. As she began setting up a preliminary survey grid, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just making a discovery. She was starting a journey that would challenge everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The ship seemed to pulse once more beneath her touch, as if acknowledging her presence, And in that moment, Sarah Chen knew her life would never be the same. 3 weeks after her discovery, Sarah's salvage bay at the United Earth Engineering Corps resembled a battlefield between order and chaos. Holographic diagrams floated in the air, displaying the ship's increasingly mysterious internal structure. Parts and tools scattered across every surface, while automated diagnostic drones buzzed around like curious insects. "This is completely unprecedented," Sarah muttered, examining a component that defied conventional physics. The crystalline matrix at its core seemed to shift and flow, even though her instruments insisted it was solid. The power distribution system isn't just advanced, it's evolutionary. A sharp knock on the bay's doorframe interrupted her concentration. Dr. Kavita Patel, the Corps' chief xenotechnology officer, stood there with two beings Sarah had hoped to avoid: ambassadors from the Galactic Heritage Council. The aliens towered over Dr. Patel, their iridescent robes shimmering with barely contained indignation. The taller one, who introduced himself as Supreme Curator Vexthor, fixed Sarah with all four of his eyes. Engineer Chen, his translator, rendered his clicks and whistles into crisp English. "You have appropriated an artifact of immense historical significance. The Council demands you cease your primitive attempts at restoration immediately." Sarah straightened, wiping grease from her hands. "With all due respect, Supreme Curator, this ship was found in a designated salvage zone. Under both Earth and galactic law, salvage rights are clear. Laws written by primitive species who cannot comprehend the magnitude of what they meddle with," the second alien, Sub-Curator Zura, interjected. "This vessel predates your entire civilization. You cannot possibly understand its complexities." Sarah gestured to her workstation, where detailed analyses scrolled past. "I understand that its quantum fold drive was centuries ahead of anything currently in use. I understand that its hull contains self-repairing nanomaterials we thought were theoretical. And I understand that someone abandoned it, thinking it was beyond repair. Because it is," Vexthor insisted. "Our finest engineers examined it centuries ago. The technology is dead, Engineer Chen. Let it rest in peace." Sarah walked to a sealed container and retrieved something that looked like a small crystal. As she held it up, it began to glow with a soft blue light. "Dead things don't do this." The alien's body language shifted subtly. Surprise, perhaps even alarm. "Impossible," Zyra whispered. "The core crystals were completely inert, because you tried to power them with standard antimatter cores," Sarah explained. "But look at these patterns. They're not designed for antimatter. They're designed to harness zero-point energy directly from vacuum fluctuations. All they needed was the right resonance frequency to wake up." Dr. Patel stepped forward, her scientific curiosity clearly piqued. "Sarah, are you saying you've managed to reactivate precursor technology?" "Parts of it. The ship's systems are like nothing we've seen before. They don't just work together, they evolve and adapt. Every component I've restored makes the others work better, like the ship is learning." Vexthor's translator crackled with static as he became more agitated. "This is precisely why such technology must be preserved, not experimented upon by humans," Sarah finished. "Because we're too primitive, too reckless." She walked to a holographic display showing the ship's power grid. "Look at these efficiency curves. The precursors didn't build this ship to sit in a museum. They built it to fly, to explore, to push the boundaries of what's possible. That's what we humans do too. Your species has barely mastered basic interstellar travel," Zyra noted dismissively. "True," Sarah agreed, "which means we still remember what it's like to dream big, to take risks. When was the last time your civilization created something truly new, truly revolutionary? Or do you just rely on managing and preserving the achievements of the past?" The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Patel cleared her throat. "The Corps has reviewed Engineer Chen's work. Her methods are unconventional, but her results are undeniable. We're backing her project." "The Council will not stand for this," Vexthor declared, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. "Then send your experts," Sarah offered, "not to stop me, but to work with me. This ship has secrets that could benefit everyone, but only if we're brave enough to unlock them." After the aliens departed, Dr. Patel lingered. "You're playing a dangerous game, Sarah. The Council has ways of making things difficult." Sarah turned back to her work, a determined smile on her face. "So do I, Doctor. So do I." She picked up her tools and dove back into the ship's mysteries, knowing that the real challenges were just beginning. But with each component she restored, each system she brought back to life, she was proving something vital. That humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their unwillingness to accept limitations. The ship hummed around her, its ancient systems awakening one by one, as if approving of her defiance. In its depths, something stirred, something that would soon change everything. Deep in the ship's central chamber, Sarah sat cross-legged on the deck plating, surrounded by floating holographic displays. 2 months of restoration work had transformed the vessel's interior from a tomb of dead technology into something approaching its former glory. Power thrummed through restored conduits, and the air hummed with the song of awakening systems. "Running diagnostic sequence 47, she announced to her log. "Crystal matrix is showing unprecedented levels of quantum coherence. It's almost as if..." She paused as something caught her eye. A pattern in the energy fluctuations that shouldn't be there. The readings weren't random. They were organized, purposeful. "Computer, analyze these energy signatures against all known communication protocols." The computer churned for several minutes before responding. No match found in current databases. However, pattern suggests organized data transmission. Sarah leaned forward, her exhaustion forgotten. Cross-reference with partial precursor data fragments from the Artemis archives. A new hologram sprang to life, showing 2 wavelength patterns side by side. They weren't identical, but the similarity was undeniable. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's not just a ship, it's trying to talk." As if responding to her words, the lights in the chamber flickered. The holographic displays swirled and merged, forming new patterns. Sarah watched, transfixed, as symbols began appearing, not precursor script, but something new, something that seemed to be creating itself before her eyes. A voice emerged from the ship's speakers, unlike anything she'd heard before. It was neither male nor female, neither organic nor artificial, but something in between. Interface protocol initiated. "Welcome, Engineer Sarah Chen." Sarah's heart raced. "You know my name. I have been observing since you first touched my hull. Your methods are unconventional, fascinating." She laughed despite herself. "Coming from a 50,000-year-old AI, I'll take that as a compliment." "I am not precisely what you would term an AI," the voice corrected. "I am a quantum consciousness, evolved from the original systems my creators installed. They called me Nexus." Sarah's mind reeled with implications. The ship hadn't just survived 50,000 years. It had grown, evolved. No wonder the Galactic Heritage Council's engineers had failed to revive it. They'd been looking for technology, not trying to communicate with a living being. "Why reveal yourself now?" she asked. "Because you understand something the others did not. You see me not as a relic to be preserved, but as a partner in discovery. My creators, the ones you call precursors, built me to learn, to grow, to push the boundaries of possibility." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Security alerts flashed across her displays. "We have company," Nexus announced. "The Galactic Heritage Council has dispatched a recovery fleet. Their stated intention is to place me in protective custody." Sarah scrambled to her feet. "They can't do that. Salvage rights are being overruled on grounds of cultural preservation," Nexus finished. "However, I have no intention of becoming a museum piece. Sarah Chen, I offer you a choice. The Council sees me as property, a thing to be owned and studied. You have treated me as a living being. Would you be willing to form a true partnership?" "What kind of partnership?" one that could revolutionize space travel. My creators designed me to explore the unknown, to seek out new frontiers. With your understanding of modern technology and my evolved capabilities, we could accomplish things neither of us could achieve alone. The chamber hummed with potential as Sarah considered the offer. Outside, the first ships of the Council's fleet would be dropping out of hyperspace. Time was running out. "They'll never stop coming after you," she said. "Not unless we prove that I am more than salvage, more than an artifact. I am a living thing, capable of growth and choice, and I choose to work with humanity. Specifically, with you." Sarah grinned. "Well then, partner, I guess we'd better give them a demonstration they'll never forget." She settled into the command chair that had reformed itself to perfectly fit her body. Around her, the ship's systems sang with power as Nexus fully integrated with the restored systems. "I should warn you," Nexus said, a note of what could only be described as mischief in its voice, "that what I'm about to show you may challenge several of your basic assumptions about physics." "Bring it on," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across the crystalline controls. "I never liked those assumptions anyway." As the first Council ships appeared on their sensors, Sarah and Nexus prepared to show the galaxy what happened when human ingenuity met precursor technology. The ship's quantum engine spooled up with a sound like reality itself catching its breath. The real revolution was about to begin. The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace in a dazzling display of power. 12 ships of crystalline beauty, their hulls gleaming with ancient authority. At their center, Supreme Curator Vex Thor's flagship loomed like a floating cathedral. "Final warning, Engineer Chen." Vex Thor's voice crackled through the comm. "Power down and prepare for boarding. This vessel belongs in our secure archives." Sarah watched the fleet's formation through Nexus's enhanced sensor display. "You know what I find interesting," she replied. "You keep talking about where this ship belongs, but nobody's asked Nexus what it wants. This is not a negotiation. The artifact." "My name is Nexus," the ship's consciousness interrupted, its voice resonating across all frequencies. "And I am not an artifact. I am alive." The Council fleet's formation wavered slightly, the first crack in their certainty. Sarah smiled. "Now shall we show them what we can really do?" "With pleasure," Nexus responded. The ship's quantum engines hummed to life, producing harmonics that made Sarah's bones vibrate with possibility. "All ships, containment protocol," Vex Thor ordered. The Council fleet began moving to surround them, energy nets spinning between their vessels. But Sarah and Nexus were already moving. The ship twisted in a way that should have been impossible, sliding through a gap in the formation that existed for less than a microsecond. Behind them, the Council ships scrambled to give chase. "They're launching quantum inhibitors," Sarah noted, watching the swarm of devices emerging from the pursuing vessels. "They're trying to lock down your exotic particle emissions." "An interesting theory," Nexus replied. "However, they're working from an outdated understanding of quantum mechanics." The ship's hull rippled, and suddenly they were leaving trails of false quantum signatures in their wake, like a squid clouding the water with ink. The Council fleet split up, half their ships chasing phantom signals while the others maintained pursuit of the real quarry. Sarah had to admire their coordination. They were clearly used to getting their way. "Nexus, what say we show them something new? Let's try that theory about dimensional folding we discussed." "Are you certain?" "The calculations suggest a 12% chance of temporary molecular dissolution." Sarah grinned. "Only 12%. I like those odds." The ship's crystalline matrix pulsed with new energy patterns. Space itself seemed to hiccup around them. For a fraction of a second, Sarah felt like she was everywhere and nowhere at once. Then reality snapped back into focus, and they were behind the pursuing fleet. "Impossible," came Vex Thor's outraged cry. "No drive system cooled." "That's your problem," Sarah cut in. "You think you know all the rules. But the universe is bigger than your rulebook." The Council ships were turning to re-engage, But Sarah and Nexus were already implementing the next phase of their plan. The ship's quantum field expanded, interacting with the fabric of space in ways that made the pursuing vessel's sensors go haywire. Warning shots detected. Nexus announced as energy beams lanced through the space they'd occupied milliseconds before. They appear to have graduated from capture to subdual tactics. Good, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across the crystalline controls. That means they're taking us seriously. Show them the gravity wave trick. The ship's field generators pulsed, sending out precisely calculated gravitational distortions. The Council fleet's formation broke apart as their ships were forced to deal with localized space-time disruptions. Sarah, Nexus said suddenly, I'm detecting a power buildup in Vexthor's flagship. They're preparing to deploy a temporal stasis field. They're really not playing around anymore. Sarah studied the tactical display. Can we break through their containment zone before they fire? Negative. The field will encompass all possible escape vectors. Sarah thought for a moment. Then let's do something they won't expect. Take us straight at them. That would appear to be tactically unsound. Exactly. They're so convinced they're dealing with a primitive human and a piece of salvage that they're not really seeing us. Let's change that. As they accelerated toward the flagship, Sarah opened a channel to all ships. Supreme Curator, you wanted to preserve precursor knowledge. Watch carefully. Nexus, initiate the quantum resonance cascade. The ship's entire crystalline structure began to sing, each molecule vibrating in perfect harmony. The sound built to a crescendo as they approached the flagship's stasis field. At the last possible moment, their quantum field synchronized with the stasis effect, not fighting it but becoming part of it. For one eternal instant, they existed in a state of perfect quantum coherence with the flagship's field. Then they were through, emerging on the other side as the stasis effect collapsed behind them. The silence that followed was profound. How? Vexthor's voice was barely a whisper. Our calculations indicated such a maneuver was theoretical at best, suicidal at worst. That's the difference between us, Sarah replied. You look for reasons why things can't be done. We look for ways to do them anyway. As the Council fleet hung motionless in space, their certainty shattered along with their containment strategy. Sarah and Nexus prepared for their next move. They had made their point, but the real challenge was still to come. It wasn't enough to prove they could outrun the Council. They had to prove they could change the galaxy itself. 1 month after the legendary chase through Council space, Sarah stood before the Galactic Assembly on New Geneva. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystal spires and floating platforms, housed representatives from over 1,000 species. Nexus maintained a steady orbit overhead, its presence a reminder of everything that had changed. The Council has governed technological advancement for 10,000 years. Supreme Curator Vexthor addressed the Assembly. We have preserved peace by controlling the spread of dangerous innovations. And now, a human engineer and a rogue AI threaten to upset that balance. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. What threatens your balance isn't technology, it's imagination. For too long, you've treated discovery as something to be controlled rather than celebrated. She gestured to the holographic display showing Nexus's quantum signatures. The precursors didn't build Nexus to be preserved. They built it to evolve, to learn, to grow. Just like they built this. She held up a small crystal, pulsing with inner light. This isn't just a power source. It's a key. The precursors left their technology for someone to find, but not just anyone. They left it for those who would see it as a beginning, not an end. Sub-Curator Zyra leaned forward. And you believe humans are worthy of such responsibility. Your species is barely out of its planetary cradle. That's exactly why we're worthy, Sarah replied. We remember what it's like to look up at the stars and dream. We haven't forgotten how to take risks, how to fail, how to pick ourselves up and try again. A new voice joined the discussion. Dr. Kavita Patel, now Earth's ambassador to the Assembly. What engineer Chen and Nexus have demonstrated goes beyond technology. They've shown us that true progress comes not from preserving the past, but from building on it. From daring to imagine something new. The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of voices debating the implications. Sarah waited patiently until Vexthor raised his hand for silence. The Council cannot ignore the events of the past month, he admitted. The capabilities you and Nexus displayed. They should have been impossible. Yet you achieved them not through brute force or stolen technology, but through genuine innovation. Which is why we're proposing something new, Sarah said. Nexus isn't just a ship, it's a teacher, and it's willing to share its knowledge, not just with humans, but with any species ready to learn. Not as a museum piece, but as a partner in discovery. She activated another hologram, showing plans for a new type of research facility. We're establishing the Frontier Institute, a place where scientists and engineers from all species can work together, combining ancient wisdom with new perspectives. Nexus will be our guide, but the discoveries we make will belong to everyone. A low murmur of excitement spread through the chamber. Even Vexthor's rigid posture softened slightly. "And what guarantee do we have that this knowledge won't be misused?" he asked.